Welcome back, and we're going to talk about something interesting again. And this time we will be talking about metadata. It's typed as, I'm going to comment this here like this and say metadata. That's what we're going to talk about in this session. It's a very important and information about a document in a variety of ways, because meta elements are usually used in to include something important, name value pairs, or describing properties of the HTML document, such as who's the author, what keywords are meant to be, or what is a description, who's the author, or an expiry date, or even to set cookies. So we'll look at certain examples along the way. So we can include one or more meta tags in our document based on what information we want. For example, if I want Google to crawl over to my web page, and if it wants to have a sort of a keyword, and I'm targeting that keyword, and I want users to benefit out of this, so they my page gets indexed relevantly in the Google database. The meta tag is where Google search indexes crawl. So it's very important. Let's look at some examples to start with. Meta tags are placed in between the head elements, and it could vary either above or below title. The best practice is to keep them above the title. And I'm going to, I'm sorry, below the title. So let's get started with something simple, and we look at other examples. We start the meta tag as usual, something like this, and this is a self-closing tag, but with a just a forward slash, and it doesn't have another meta closure because it's mostly informatory. It need not be rendered as content, and hence it's self-closing. And then we give it something called as a name. So we identify a meta tag with different names. The first name we need to know about is called keywords. Oops. Just like input has a name of password, username, and others, meta tags also have a name, and this time it's keywords. And then there is a name followed by something called the content. It's mostly to be about what type of a content is it. And then usually keywords are something like, let's say, tutorial, HTML tutorial, for example. Then we're learning about we're learning about meta tags, or it's also called metadata, right? This is one of the keywords and one of the meta tags, and then there is some more, but this is something used by Google to crawl into your keywords. Then there is something called as, again, it's going to be meta. This time the name will be description, and the content usually is a description about the tag. Usually this is limited to 164 characters, 169 to be precise. I'm not sure of the exact number, but this is an excerpt. If you open Google, let's say I'm going to search for I'm going to search for let's say Tom Hanks, or let me something simple, let's say carrots. And then here, this is a list of, this is the number of characters that is in the meta tag of that particular page that Google has rendered and indexed and saved in their database. So this can go right here as a description. So just copy that, and then I'm going to put this something like this here, and then the tag ends like this. This is how a description is followed, and Google will be crawling in. These information cannot be observed on a web page on our live preview, because it's only used by crawlers. And then the next one we'll talk about is another type of a meta. It's called revised. It talks about the revision of your website. Let me type this out. This meta tag is mostly to talk about when was this page revised. So you also are, Google also observes the number of times you update your website, and the later or the latest it is, the better your chances are that you will be ranked higher up. And if you maintain these kind of standards, which are HTML5, you get ranked so much better. And I'm going to say Udemy tutorial, or let's just say how tech tutorial, and I'm going to put a date. Usually these are accompanied by a date. I'm just going to put something random. It's not the actual date. Let's just put something. All right, and then the tag ends. Make sure meta tags end. Some IDEs don't refer to a meta missed closure as an error, but some do. Please be sure to add a closure to the tags. And then comes meta HTTP equiv, which is used to refresh. Let's say your web page is to update Wimbledon scores or track a soccer game or a game of cricket, for example, and you want the viewers to get the latest of the scores. So you set something called as refresh, and then the content should refresh on your page every 5 seconds, and that's how you do it. And for every 5 seconds, whoever is viewing your web page, the page keeps refreshing. And there is another thing that you can also do is you might want to refresh the page and then point them over to another web page, let's say another of yours, another URL of yours, or something else that you'd like to put it across. So that's how you end them here. All right, and I think I missed yeah, there you go. So that's something we do it. I think this is, yeah, let me correct. Great, this is better. You can also set cookies using Meta. Sometimes you want to save a user's information. Whoever visits your website, you want to save something about the user's last visit on their browsers, not on your server, but on their browsers. We'll talk about cookies and another training program, but not this, but you might want to read about what they can do and how you can make use of it later on. But cookies are used for a lot of ways. I'm not going to talk about that in this case, but just going to refer to meta tag, and because it's an extended topic and we may not be able to cover it in the scope of this training program, but cookies are used to mostly collect information about the user and cascade it for a better user experience when he visits you next time. Right, that's very briefly put. And then there is another content type that we put in where we say HTTP equiv with a cookie. And this is another type. And then the content can be that you want to save the user ID. Let's say user ID, and that might be something like this. Along with that, you can say that the cookie should have an expiry date, otherwise your cookie can be invalid. So I'm just going to say Wednesday, or let's say Tuesday of a month of let's say I'm just taking this as an example, and maybe at a time, let's make it midnight. And we specify a time zone. Cool. This should end here. Now, if you don't include the expiration, the cookie is usually considered as a session cookie, and the moment the user closes or exits the browser, your cookie will be deleted. There are various programs, PHP, JavaScript, and others that can help check PHP or a cookie something, and if you can do further reading on that. And you can also set an author name using Meta again. With that, just use the name again, and we set a author. Then we, if you, let's say it's a blog or it's a page that belongs to a particular department or a particular person, then you say name, and that name can be attributed, that page can be attributed to that name. Then you can also specify a character set. A character set is something that defines a encoding that the browsers normally use to provide certain features or add-ons like speech to text conversion, text to speech conversion, or translation services across different, let's say someone in China opens your website and the page will be instantly translated to Chinese, or if it's a Chinese page that's coded in Chinese language, then they use a different sort of an encoding. UTF-8 is a standard encoding format for language English, and I'll show you that. You just talk about, and anything to do with the browser interacting with another engine, we put HTTP equiv. For example, the refresh will be directly dealing with the Chrome V8 engine, and the translation services will be dealing with the Chrome or any browser's V8 engine. So hence we put HTTP equiv there. Then there is text, HTML. Then we define, we tell them browsers that it's a HTML text, and we are using a UTF-8 format, and we recommend Google Chrome and Mozilla and other internet explorers like Safari to ignore any other special characters and process them as English, and that's what this means. That's it about Meta. There are a few other things. I think we've covered all the important ones. Maybe we might be left with one or two. And HTML5 is evolving. 2018, perhaps it will be fully done, and we might move on to HTML6. You never know. But there are different versions and subversions of HTML coming out in 2018. It's been a fantastic time for HTML evolution. But so far, these are the important ones. And thanks for watching. I hope you had a good hands-on. Let's come back, learn a few more things in the next session. Thanks for watching.